Here's an idea that might change how you think about pressure. Your brain doesn't fear danger.
What it really fears is missing information. That feeling you get in a high-stakes moment, the anxiety, the mental fog, it's not the danger itself that's causing it. It's the information that you don't have. And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. It's a pattern. And once you see it, you start to notice the exact same invisible force showing up everywhere, just in different situations.
Think about a pilot flying through a nasty storm. They're trained for turbulence. That's not the problem. The real stress, the moment their heart rate spikes, is when the instruments start to fail and they can't see a thing. The danger is one thing. The lack of good data is something else entirely.
Or, picture a founder trying to keep their startup alive. They signed up for risk, but the pressure that really wears them down day after day, it's not the risk of failing. It's the ambiguity, not knowing if they have enough cash to make it, getting confusing signals from the market. It's the not knowing that's exhausting.
Let's go to an operating room. A surgeon could be in the middle of a super complex procedure, totally in the zone, but the moment of peak stress isn't always the hardest cut. Often, it's the pause, that moment they're just waiting for a lab result or a diagnostic confirmation that tells them what to do next. So do you see the pattern here? The context really doesn't matter. It could be a pilot's broken instrument, a founder's confusing data, a surgeon's pending test result, or even an analyst's incomplete intelligence report. The real threat, the thing that triggers the stress response, is always the missing information. The problem lives in that informational gap.
Okay, so why? Why does our brain have such an extreme reaction to this? To get that, we have to look under the hood at the internal mechanics. We need to understand the brain's threat system and exactly how uncertainty hijacks it.
It turns out your brain follows this automatic 3-stage playbook every single time. First, any ambiguity gets processed as a threat. Second, your mind rushes to invent a story to fill that information vacuum. And third, the only thing that can calm the system back down is clarity.
Let's dig into that first step. When your brain encounters an unknown, it doesn't just file it away as a neutral piece of data. It immediately flags unknown as potential danger. This is an ancient survival feature, right? For our ancestors, hearing a rustle in the grass and assuming it's a predator was a much safer bet than assuming it was just the wind. That anxiety you feel when things are unclear, that's just your threat detection system doing its job, but for a world it wasn't built for.
Now, because that feeling of uncertainty is so biologically uncomfortable, your brain's next move is to get rid of it, fast. And how does it do that? It starts making stuff up. It creates a complete story, a narrative that explains away the missing pieces just to give you a temporary and usually false sense of control. And this is the trap we all fall into. We feel this story bubble up inside us, and we give it a fancy name like intuition or foresight. We think we're having a deep gut feeling, but a lot of the time, it's just compensatory fabrication. It's your brain telling itself a story to calm its own nerves, and you're mistaking that speculation for real insight.
Which brings us to the only real antidote: clarity. Getting clear, predictable information isn't just a nice-to-have for our thinking process. It's a biological off switch for the nervous system. It tells the brain it can stop wasting massive amounts of energy scanning for threats and running worst-case scenarios. Clarity isn't about comfort. It's about metabolic efficiency.
And that energy waste is a huge deal. This constant state of low-grade alert brings us to the hidden cost of it all, the very real, physical, metabolic price of ambiguity.
This chart really says it all. Take 2 tasks that require the same amount of actual work. The one that's clearly defined, low energy burn. But the one that's ambiguous, the energy cost goes through the roof. And that's because your brain is forced to do 2 jobs at once: the task itself and this constant draining background process of trying to figure out all the unknowns. Over time, the cost of this really adds up. Your working memory gets smaller because it's clogged with all these what-if simulations. Your ability to accurately judge risk gets warped. You start making impulsive decisions just to make the feeling of uncertainty stop. And all of this leads to a state of chronic hypervigilance, which is a direct path to burnout. But here's the key: you're not burning out from the work. You're burning out from the endless threat simulation.
So, if that's the trap, how do some people manage to avoid it? Well, it's not about having better coping skills or doing breathing exercises. This is where we find the resilient edge. It's a complete shift in the mental model for how you deal with pressure. The standard approach, what most of us do, is focus on the feeling. We feel stressed, so we try to manage the stress. We try to calm down, and we just passively wait for the uncertainty to go away. The resilient approach is the polar opposite. It ignores the feeling and attacks the source, the information gap. It's about actively managing the flow of information to kill the ambiguity.
And this is the whole game, right here. The most resilient people make one powerful shift in their thinking. They stop treating stress as an emotional problem that has to be managed, and they start treating it as an informational problem that needs to be solved. So, to make this something you can actually use, we're going to finish with 3 really sharp diagnostic questions. Think of these as tools to analyze your own system the next time you feel that pressure start to build.
First, instead of just swimming in that vague feeling of anxiety, get really specific. Ask yourself, what exactly feels unclear right now? Name it. Pinpoint the specific piece of information you're missing.
Second, you have to be honest about that internal narrative. Ask yourself, what story am I telling myself to fill in this blank? And then you have to see it for what it is, just a story. Is it actually based on facts, or is it just a fabrication your mind cooked up to feel better?
And finally, you pivot to action. Ask, what would make this clearer? This one question changes everything. It shifts you from being a passive worrier into an active problem solver. What's the one action you can take, or the one question you can ask that would get you the information you need and calm your entire system down?